Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Welcome again, everyone. This is another episode of Empowered to Grow. This is our Unchartered discussions part. So this is the part where I love that we just let it flow. I am still with the beautiful Aalia Lanius. Oh my God. I did it right the first time. I'm like, why am I second guessing myself? I'm sorry. So we're still here and we're still talking. And I love this part because it just will let the flow go. But I was talking to Aalia and I love the part that, she's a survivor, as I said in the first part. And she's a survivor of since she was 14 years old, where literally she found herself out on the street with no parents to support her. She went into a relationship that lasted for some time, but that was abusive in that sense. And then she had to fend for herself, to stand up for yourself and find your voice and decide that I'm not going to be a victim anymore. So, and I know that has shaped a lot to your mission and what you do right now. I would love for you to tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think in that I have to share something with you that a lot of people don't know about, which is kind of incredible. So, and it speaks to the survival. So as you mentioned, when I was 14 years old, and we had talked about being 14 years old, I was left to fend for myself. I ended up in the care of a family in a church that I had joined. And, not unlike a lot of people, I definitely turned to God as a source of comfort. Having been abandoned by my parents, the thought that I had a father who loved me in the way that, it was phrased meant a lot. So I was taken in by a husband and wife, and they sent me off to a Bible school that was part of the church that their parents ran. And once I got to the school, shortly after, I ended up coming forward and telling the pastors that their son-in-law had actually sexually assaulted me more than once while I was living with them. And it was a very disturbing situation because, of course, for me, I didn't have anyone to support me. I'm sure you can understand, as a person speaking up and saying something, I was scared and I didn't really have anywhere to go, but I felt I needed to be truthful. So I told, and ultimately they believed the son-in-law. They believed that nothing had happened and that I was just fabricating, and I had told a lie. This was when I was 14 years old. Now I've taken years of self-building and healing from that, and accepting and coming to understand that I didn't do anything wrong, that I, was subject to circumstances that were not a reflection of me, but a reflection of the person doing that. Yes. But, so I thought I had conquered it, which I had. I'd become a conqueror as opposed to survivor. I went from victim to survivor to conquer. I thought I'd given myself largely all the healing that I needed. And recently, and I shared this on my podcast, a new law in California came about where for 3 years, they give a look back window for anybody who was sexually assaulted or endured molestation, and it was covered up by an institution. You now have civil recourse. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. Some of these cases are 50 years old. They're going. Wow. There's a lot of what stemmed from the Boy Scouts and the Catholic Church allegations. Yes. So I had a friend who was a former LAP detective, kind of like a real life detective Stabler. And he works with a law firm now as an investigator. And he came to me and he said, "Hey, Aalia, I think you should really take a look at this. We can maybe finally get you justice." And I was like, I'm good. I
don't want to go down there again.
Well, and I had already turned that page. I had already found my healing, right? I'd given myself permission to heal. Yes. But this man who looked at me and said, "Aalia, I know what you would say if you were sitting across from another survivor. I know that you would tell them to seek they deserve justice." Yes. So he finds this man, and it took a long time, or it took several months, but he actually tracked him down. And a couple of weeks ago, he texts me. He says, "Hey, can you get on the phone? I have this gentleman here with me, and he wants to apologize to you." Wow. Knowing that my friend, Detective Castillo, was there. Knowing what he was about to admit, he gets on the phone with me. This is 30 years later.
Yeah.
He says, and I was so strong. I'm like, if you're getting on the phone to tell me you're sorry, I am absolutely willing to hear it. But you need to know, I know what's up now. You left me out to dry. I was not afraid. Like everything I wish I would have said at 14, I said it. And then I said, go ahead. And he commences to apologize. Now, it doesn't make what he did right, but he says, I am so sorry. He acknowledged everything. Even the detective said, former detective said, now, are you saying sorry for something you said or didn't? Like, I want to know specifically, what are you saying sorry for? And he copped to everything. And what's amazing is, though I felt I didn't need it. What is great is, according to this law and civil procedure, now we actually do have this case where I get to really have my day in court. And it's not that money changes anything, but if I'm able to take those funds and then continue doing what I'm doing with Unsugarcoated Media. So sorry, that was Amazon.
No problem.
If I'm able to take from that experience and help others take those funds and do more of what we're doing with Unsugarcoated Media, create a short film on these experiences, then I am bringing value to people. And that is the part that makes me happy about it, right? But on top of it, 30 years later, when I thought I'd never get what I needed or what I deserved, I got it. Right. So like, what do you think about something like that? Is that not, I want women to have hope. I
think that's the point. It's going back. It's amazing that you brought that up, because a couple of days ago, I teamed up with a couple of my friends as well, experts in their field, a counselor and a positive intelligence coach. And we did a webinar on healing your inner child wounds. And it is those kind of, this, yes, it is extreme, because there was sexual molestation with it, or there was assault with it, and you stood up for yourself, but still no one believed you. And this shapes you one way or another. Yes, because I'm sure it did impact you one way or another within the further abuse in your relationship after that, or the fact that, there's no one there for me. And this also carries with you, because sometimes when we fend for ourselves too much, that is also a trauma response. Right. So for me, and we were talking to break, like realizing that I'm a third culture kid. I was born and raised as an expat. I lived most of my childhood and adulthood as an expat. That shaped something in me. It shaped in me that I don't fit in. And I'm a foreigner. I'm always the foreigner. Even back home in Egypt, I felt like a foreigner. And that shaped the way I carried myself, that I would put in the effort. I would put all in. But then there's a part of, the breakthrough point of this is it. I'm going to stand up for me and I know I'm right. I'd shy away from that part, because I'm a foreigner, because I don't have the right, because, who's going to listen to me? Because I'm possibly within the classification of the society, I'm on a third base, or third class. So those kind of things, they shape us, knowing that back when I was a child and I got, harassed in many situations or whatever, that I could not stand up for myself. I could stand up for myself for all about 5 seconds. And then, you just kind of cocoon and say, okay, I need to move on now. I need to heal. And a lot of the times that healing is actually just a Band-Aid. You're not actually flushing out the wound. You're not healing the wound. You're just putting another Band-Aid on it, hoping that it will go away, hoping you won't see it, hoping it won't be gushing out the blood and it's not going to cause, kind of a scene around you. And that's the part where I love that you had, I wouldn't call it justice, but you found that for you, that you stood up for yourself, and 30 years later, you still know it was right. And you still got served the apology that you deserved.
Yeah, it is so true. And what you say, I think that as a young woman, I felt ashamed because I didn't have the perfect story. Like you talk about being an expat. I didn't have family. I didn't have mom and dad who were still married. Yeah. I didn't have parents sending me off to college like my other friends did. And I always felt lower. And, it took a lot for me to then own the power and saying, but you know what, you're right. I had a different life, but I'm stronger. I am more powerful not that necessarily it's not a wonderful thing to give your kids a great life, but I mean, I just can't sit and, I think the mentality is I have to be proactive and not reactive.
Yes.
Things happen in life, like, because to top that, he had sexually assaulted me, but between the ages of 4 and 7, I was actually molested by 5 different men. And to go through that much significant, it starts to confuse you. Am I doing something? Am I doing something to draw this behavior? What energy am I sending out? Right. But then I'm like, but I'm a child. What energy could have? So it really does. It is shattering those limiting beliefs.
Yes.
And taking the time, like, I love that you're doing that, because it is part of the process. It has been part of my process to sit down and have a conversation with my younger self.
Yes, true.
And say, these things happen to you. You are worthy of love and care all along. Yes. It's sad that you didn't get it where you needed it at times, but look at now where you're able to provide that for yourself. And then I have built a culture around me that now the people do have my back, and God forbid something were to happen, I have people that will support me and be there for me. And likewise, I continue to do the same for others,
That's true. That's true. And I love the fact that, as you said, that you're giving yourself permission to address it, to look at everything and understand that it was never your fault, whatever happened. But then how can you move forward from that? And between the ages of 4 and 7, that our subconscious is shaped between the ages of 0 and 7. A good substantial part of it is shaped then. And then it compounds after everything. And our beyond that, our nurture and, our young adulthood and everything else. And that in itself embedded that part in you and I think that's where it's also shaped your personality between, from victim to survivor to now I'm in control, to conquer of my life. Speaking of wounds and how to empower yourself and tribe, and I think that is also another topic that I would love to share, to kind of tackle with you, the tribe part. Because also for me, it was because I'm here, I also felt like I had no tribe. I had no one to have my back when I needed to vent, to talk, to scream, to just complain, or just say, hi, I'd like to, have a coffee in silence. And a little over a year ago, so January last year, I decided, okay, now that was also another mindset switch of I'm abundant. I'm abundant with the knowledge. I'm abundant with the love. I'm abundant with the empathy and the care. And I want to share this abundance that I've got. And I created a Facebook group for women. And I said, let's be empowered to grow together. I'm going to share as much as I want and whatever you guys want to have. And I could do some lives and I could do this. And we're about 1,100 women now, which is great. I love it.
Amazing. Bravo.
Yes. And also I had to stop myself from comparing to other people who have hundreds of thousands. And I'm like, but what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to connect with these women. I can't physically connect with 50,000 or 100,000 women. I can do it possibly even 1,000, because not everyone is active at the same time, but I could do this. So that idea of the tribe became something that I love, because then it became a source of empowerment and became the ripple effect. And it became a global thing. It's online, anyone. And we've got women from all around the world. So speaking of that, how is it that you came to say, consciously or subconsciously, I'm creating my tribe of these people around me who are going to have my back?
Well, that happened with cancer. I think that being women sometimes, especially if you're a mother, I had 3 kids, it can be very isolating. Your life consists of getting up, making lunches, helping the homework,
errands, taking them to practice,
doctor's appointments. It's not really that exciting, right? No. Your network kind of for a minute can be very small. And especially if you make a big change, like we had moved to Los Angeles literally right before I got diagnosed. So I didn't have any from the Northern California. I didn't have much network at all. And it took me laying in a hospital bed and opening my computer. I only had a Wi-Fi network. My children were with my adopted sister and best friend in Northern California who was taking care of them while I was in the hospital. And I just typed in the computer, young cancer survivor group, just like what you said. And I love that you did that. And I think that no matter what, 1,500, 100, if you're taking up space and if you're creating, if you're not doing it, someone else will. right?
Yes,
So
true.
it's amazing that you do it. And I will say this though, the very, very first part of getting diagnosed with cancer, I was like, I'm going to be able to. Well, first of all, she hands me a prescription for an antidepressant. And I'm like, I don't need that. I've been through a lot of stuff in life. We'll just get through this cancer thing. I can't lie. Several months later, I come back. I'm like, yo, where's that prescription at?
I need that.
Hold on.
Please pass it on.
Maybe I do need some help there. It was a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be. And so I'm in that bed. I'm in that hospital. I reach out, and through Facebook, a group, I'm Too Young for This Stupid Cancer, became my source of courage, strength, beauty. And through that connection, my best friend, and who is now the VP of Unsugarcoated Media, she said, you better get up off your ASS and fight for those kids, because having cancer took her ability to have children. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she said, no, you don't get to sit there. Yes, you're having a tough time. She related as a stage 4 cancer survivor, but you don't get to give up.
Yeah.
And that was life-changing for me, because suddenly I had this community of other people who did understand what I was going through. Mm-hmm. And it changed the trajectory of my battle with cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that it was immediately, gone, but what I now had was this support, and I learned to support others as part of that journey. And it became this, it's where I say to people, cancer was both the worst and best thing to happen in my life. And I could not, people will become very confused, but if you've been in it and you know what it is like, and you understand that, you really develop a sense of the miracle is right now. A lot of times, being part of being sick, people, when one of us would fall, it's like, oh, we're praying for the miracle. And I just came to learn, this is the miracle. Every time you get to pick up the phone and say hello and goodbye. Yes. That's the miracle. That's right. True. And so, just that really changed everything for me, Hanan. Like and ever since, it's what taught me the value of network, but not necessarily in the business sense that a lot of people, but yes, in the sense of tribe. It became my tribe. It became the people that when I was having a tough day and I said on Facebook, this was actually back in the day when I really shared more, but it was like, today's just a really rough day. Yeah. My team would come in, and they were there. What is it? We've got you. It's okay. Let it out. But, don't forget to get back up.
True. And speaking of that also, I'd like to make the comment that sometimes you also have to reassess those around you and make sure that the toxic ones are not the ones getting to you all the time. And I spoke of this earlier today too. It's just that I speak to a lot of women and they're like, sitting with a friend and her friends, and they're like, yeah, we have to see that lady later or something because we have to go for an outing. I'm like, why do you have to? It's like, yeah, because we've known her since school and it's like been 20 years, but she really drains us and she's very negative. And I'm like, and still, why are you still friends with her? Because I'm like, no, there's no more because I fell in that trap as well for so long, where I had a best friend that was criticizing every single thing I did out of love, but it wasn't really love. It was toxic. And it was part of why I was doubting myself. And I had to let go of this relationship to be able to grow beyond it,
Absolutely.
And we're still stuck in that.
I have to dovetail that, my dear, because when you've taken toxic medication, when you've felt what toxic medicine feels like going through your veins, and the adverse effects of toxicity, the way that cancer patients do, or anybody who has to take any form of chemotherapy, you understand real quick, you don't need toxic people in your life, because it's the last thing that you ever want to deal with again, Sure. But Sure. That's the thing. When we deal with it in the medical sense, we see the effects in a different way.
It's tangible. Yeah.
But when you're in those relationships that are toxic, you're not necessarily seeing that. So you don't equate the two, but exactly, getting sick and then having, largely, which is where I wrote in Tough Love, like, coming to that moment of saying, okay, this no longer serves me. Yes. And it's toxic, and I have to be okay with letting it go, no matter what the cost is, because ultimately the prize is my health and my sanity. What I lost was a bad relationship. What I gained was independence, freedom, peace, happiness.
True. Peace of mind. Yeah. That's and that's invaluable. I mean, that really has no price tag on it.
Exactly.
And I think that's the part where we start becoming aware, and that is self-empowerment, where you become aware and conscious of you. You value your time, you value your effort and your energy, you value your resources, I call them. So even your finances, your knowledge, these are all your resources. When you start giving value to them, then you can start saying, you know what? I don't need this. I deserve better than that. And we say that in relationships, we say that out of a career, but we should say that to us, to ourselves, and how we carry our lives and how we move forward. Aalia, I know we could be talking for a few more hours, and I know you're a busy lady, and I'm very appreciative of your time. Thank you so much for being you. And thank you for standing up for you and for everyone else in your life.
Well, and thank you for taking the time, no matter where you are, to reach out and connect with others and support others and use your platform in the way that you are. I think it's amazing. I am honored to support you and collaborate with you. These are collaborations, and I just look forward to doing more and making that social impact that we already, keep it going. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, everyone, as always, empowered you empowers others. Keep being you, keep being great, and stand up for you. Find your voice and find your tribe. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananulbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.